Welcome to another riveting, exciting, riveting episode of Repair Shop Reckoning. Today we have Check Engine Chuck from Check Engine Chuck LLC. Welcome to the show. I've been excited since I talked to you last week on this. We started we've talked on and off, over the last few months about different topics and stuff like that. But I really found it interesting when they stitched that the other day, and you did your comment. We called and I talked to you that you're pretty much on the same page. We seem to have been brought up the same way in the repair business by bosses that maybe were hard on us, but fair. There's a big difference. Is somebody just a boss that's just an asshole to be an asshole, or he's hard on you and then you think he's an asshole, but then you grow up and realize that he did you good. So let's go ahead and get started here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And 100%, I grew up with. It was a time where you had to want to be a technician. There were no technicians when I got into it. You were a mechanic, and you had to want to be a mechanic to get into this. And we didn't have the shortage that we have today, so you kind of had to take a kick in the balls from your boss every so often. It was just normal,
Yeah, I remember them days too. My first boss, Hal from Hal's Auto Clinic, he was a good guy, but he did not have a problem yelling at you. And I can remember a couple times where, I'm 23 years old thinking I need to go in the bathroom and cry. But you went in the bathroom and cried there. You didn't let anybody see you, That was kind of the way it went.
Yeah. Yep,
so,
100%.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on, based on that, we started out, we talked about that video that was stitched, and everybody just seems to really have a struggle with that. And what I'm taking away from that video is there's a huge generational gap that guys just do not understand the way we were brought up versus how soft kids are today because they all got a trophy for playing baseball. Everybody's a winner. Well, when we grew up, there was winners and there was losers, They had movies about Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last, I mean, and I think it's translated into a little bit of a problem in our industry with people, having soft skin, thin skin, whatever you want to call it. And it's drove me nuts. I have gone through a lot of guys, but, when you hired a guy, let's take that video, for instance. That kid came to me, the shop that they were working at. I hired a service advisor from there and him from there. And he came to me when I interviewed him through my BG guy. He basically, I said to him, hey, I'm looking for a guy to do front end work and stuff like that. Yep, I've been a front end specialist at my place for 3 years. I said, okay, well, I walked him out to the alignment rack. Can you do an alignment on this? Absolutely. Will I have to hold your hand, help you or anything? No, sir, you will not. Okay, what do you think you want to look to make? We negotiated his wage, pretty much what he wanted, and he started. He had all his certifications. In Michigan, that's kind of a big deal. Not ASC, state certifications are even a big deal in Michigan, believe it or not. He had all his state certifications in front end and brakes, so that was a plus. And, his first alignment he couldn't do. He didn't fill up the tires. He didn't even verify customer complaint, okay? And people are getting all over me going, well, did you tell him to do this? Well, wait a second. If he was a trainee, it would be a different story. I would have held his hand, right? But if you get a seasoned veteran, as he was, of 3 years, wouldn't you think he'll be able to do the alignment after he told me to do the alignment? Then I go for the ride with him when we go through the alignment rack and I say the steering wheel's crooked. We go for a ride. We realize the steering wheel's crooked. We straighten it out and I tell him, hey, I understand, but I'm not going to tell you it's okay that you lied to me. We'll just get on with our life. I never said I'm going to fire you or anything like that, right? That was Friday. Monday morning I get there, he had quit. What could I have possibly done in that conversation with him to change things?
I don't think that there's much that you could have done to change things. I think that personally, that guy just probably was not and would not be moldable into being the right fit for your particular business. Toolboxes all have wheels. You can roll them down the road, for a reason. And maybe the guy down the road won't be so harsh on him, but maybe he won't have some of the benefits that come with working for you from the same guy that might not be as harsh on him. I think for someone to call themselves, and that was what was missing a bit, was the context. When I originally saw your post, what was that, maybe 6 months ago when you posted it, I felt like, unless it was because I listened to your podcast, I felt like that context of him calling himself a front-end specialist was in there. So I didn't even think twice about it. That was implanted in my brain. And when I made my video, I realized that I had to give the people that were commenting that context as well. But if you call yourself a front-end specialist, You're not a front end specialist. You say you could do an alignment. If you could do an alignment, like the first steps of the alignment are fill the tires, take it for a test drive, confirm the problem. If a car comes in and a lady says, I need wipers, if you go to put, the technician looks at that and he goes, oh, she needs wiper blades. He puts wiper blades on the car, but he never turns on the wipers to make sure that the blades are good and they don't streak or anything, or that the washer pump works. When the car leaves, she comes right back. I told you I need wipers. My wipers don't work. Well, you said you need wipers. We put wipers. That's the job of the tech, to verify the concern. Why do you need wipers? Why do you need an alignment?
No, I would agree with that. And that video was one of my very first few podcasts, okay? So you're telling a story like you're telling a story to your friends that are sitting in a room so they could ask questions back. So me learning how to do this, obviously we all get better as we go. We don't stutter as much. We don't do our little crazy shit because we're not used to being on camera. And when I look at that video, I'm like, yeah, I should have definitely added some context front and after, but it's like, fuck it. It is what it is. I did, and we were learning and stuff like that. Am I a hard guy to work with? No, but I expect people to do their job, and I treat them very well when they do their job. And what I'm going to do here, and I already talked to all my guys down there, I said, we're going to do a podcast, and we're going to do a podcast of what happened with that situation and how things run in our shop. And I'm going to let you guys talk from your mouths to the camera so people understand what really happens in our shop. We fix shit at our shop. We're not babies. Nobody gets babied. All the guys that work for me, including my 18-year-old son, they all act like men. Can you imagine that, having a shop where everybody acts like men and they don't cry and whine? None of my guys cry and whine. So
yeah, I mean, the problem with the internet there is you're going to have the one guy in the shop that's kind of shy on video, and everyone will just grab that and go, oh, see, he's got a gun to their head. He's making them say this.
He's got a gun underneath the table pointing at him. Sure. Something you just said that made me think of something. So a while ago, I bought a cyber truck just because I thought it was cool, and my friend had one, and we like cool, crazy shit. But one thing that I found very interesting with Tesla, they pay their technicians hourly. When you show up, they do everything by appointment. So they say, hey, Kevin, I had a pillar. Some tweeters in my pillar on my right side go bad. They ordered it. They said, we're going to schedule you in for 45 minutes on this date. I show up there. They take my truck in. The technician walks into the lobby and says, okay, Mr. Brown, what exactly are we going after here? We know we're putting this on. We ordered this part. I read his notes. Can you explain to me exactly what you're dealing with? And I would tell him, he's like, any other problems? I said, yeah, I'm having a problem with the windshield wiper, but I don't want to be that customer that I hate adding a bunch of stuff. My windshield wiper's acting out. What's it doing, Mr. Brown? I tell him. That was me talking straight to the technician. He came back out. He's like, holy shit, that wiper blade was actually ready to break. You were right. I noticed that. And he said, okay, we figured the pillar, we put it in, but we realized it had a loose wiring harness in the door, so when it would hit base, it would rattle. We took the door apart and fixed that too. Okay, that would have never happened at my shop or most shops out there because, number one, we don't do appointment-based stuff by time. The vehicle gets dropped off. The service advisor talks to the customer. We all know service advisors don't ask the right questions. They just don't. Let's face it. I tell my people, talk to them and write down exactly what they say. They still don't do it. I mean, it's a training issue on and on and on, right? So as technicians, we go out there, we kind of are, well, I don't really understand what this means. There's where the thing, she wants wipers. You put wipers on, and the technician just never even tries the wipers. They don't work, right? They don't wipe. That's what she really meant.
Right.
So you're 100% right.
Right.
That is a problem in our industry. And anybody who says it's not, that there's not a communication drop between the front and the back, they're crazy. Stuff gets lost.
No, definitely. I mean, when I, worked in a management position and had writers, and when I had my shop, which was for a 2-year period, I literally had a list, and it started at the first place I had a management kind of deal. And it was literally a list from Honda of like 100 different noises. And when someone would say they had a noise in the front end or a noise with the brakes, it was sectioned out to, here's a potential front end noise. Here's a potential brake noise. Here's a potential wind noise. Is it a creak? Is it a bang? Is it a clank? Is it a rattle? And I would force them to go down this list when there was a noise concern and go, would you call it more of a clank or a rattle or a bang? And that would get something as simple as the word describing the noise would get so much more communication between the writer and the tech that was going to look at the vehicle, whether I was that tech or not.
No, and I'd be willing to bet you if people would actually take the time to do what you just said, it would be a lot easier in dealerships and stuff too. I mean, my wife's car blew a tire. She ran over something. I said, just stop by the Lincoln Mercury dealer. This is about a year and a half ago. I haven't put a tire on it. So she's like, okay. So she's like, they put the spare on. They kept my wheel. They'll put the tire on it tomorrow, and they'll call me. I said, I'll just drive it down there. You're not going to go down there. I'll drive it to the dealer, and I'll stop by and just grab the tire and put it on at the shop because I want to make sure they don't freaking send the lug nuts and warp the rotors. So I go there, and I pay for the tire. They roll it out. It's got no weights on it, and the valve cap's off it. So I say to the service advisor, I say, hey, I said, there's no valve cap on that. I could live with that, but there's no weight. It didn't need no weight. So I go, I'm going to call bullshit on that. I said, just go ahead and roll it back out there. So I start arguing back and forth with the service advisor, a younger person. So an older service advisor comes rolling there, I'll do it. So he goes back and rolls it. He's like, holy shit, it took almost an ounce. So they were going to send me out without balancing the tire, without a valve cap on. Okay, and they were going to argue with me about it. Okay, after charging me an obscene amount of money for the tire, I want to say obscene amount of money for a Lincoln Mercury tire. I'm sure they probably made 10% like most dealers make on tires, whatever, but they didn't even take the time to put a valve cap on it, not even balance it. How do we get our technicians to do better and stuff like that when the dealers and everybody and flat rate and everything is such a mess, outside in the dealer world? I don't have problems with flat rate in my shop. I want to throw that in there, see how I learned how to do contacts, right? I don't have flat rate problems in my shop. But from what I understand, the dealers are horrible, and the CSI scores, and these guys get to a bad CSI score, and it costs them $1,000 out of their paycheck. That is not fair.
Yeah, I mean, so for that to get changed, I mean that maybe not directly changed, but to kind of answer that question, you have like prerequisite questions that need to be there, and almost you were at a Ford Lincoln Mercury dealer, right? So in that aspect, you had to have a technician get that tire from parts, put it onto the wheel, and decide at some point not to balance it. So the decision to not balance it, does that come from ignorance? Probably not. Probably comes from laziness. Or if flat rate, is it not just laziness? Is it, I want to get this thing out of here and make more money. I'm not putting it on the car. It's not like the customer is going to come right back. So is it the hourly tech, the lubie, that was lazy and said, oh, I'm not going to balance that? Or was it the flat rate guy that was trying to make more time? Because I know you said your guys are flat rate, but now let's move that entire situation back to the Tesla dealer that you talked about, where that technician came out, had that conversation with you. He's an hourly guy. He doesn't have to worry about flat rate. The reason he is able to do that is because it's not a franchisee dealership, Tesla. It's not, I own a Tesla dealership, so I want to sell Teslas, and I also own Tesla service, so I need to stick to their manufacturer warranties, but I also want to make profit off the service. This is full in-house Tesla. Tesla's a young enough company that they still have, and not that I absolutely love Teslas by any means, but they still have that old Toyota new manufacturer mentality that we want customer retention and lifetime customers, as to where the manufacturer stopped giving a shit about your car the second it hit 60,000 miles. The manufacturer does not care about the service department at the franchise dealer, because that's not where they don't care about that. That's all between the franchise dealer and their customers that are coming in for non-warranty work. And the franchise dealer wants to make as much profit as possible. So there's too many underlying questions to fix that, exact situation by any means. And getting rid of flat rate isn't the answer. Getting rid of the lazy lubie isn't the answer because we have such a shortage. Turning the dealership into a Tesla model doesn't work because you're buying from the franchise, manufacturer. So I mean, I don't know. That's a people in their particular positions at the particular dealership that you went to problem. That's not an overall industry problem, in my opinion.
No, I would have to say from the front door to the back door at the dealerships, everybody's getting a piece of the pie. So they're all scrambling all the time to sell the customer the most. And, let's face it, they're trying to freaking make a living. So I think the dealer model is antiquated, and I think that Tesla's a new enough company, like you said, that they've actually leveraged, like for instance, the web, their parts. They have e-catalog. I have a Tesla at my body shop right now. We just finished it today. I ordered $10,000 worth of parts Friday. I put the VIN number into TeslaParts.com. It brings up the vehicle. I go through blow-ups. I pick the parts. I add them to my cart. I put my credit card. I hit send. Do you want to know when the parts showed up? Monday at noon. 3 pallets showed up in T-Force Freight Monday at noon. Now, let's flip the script. I have a Transit 350 at my shop that got roofs, 3 roof sections, and headliners. I waited 6 weeks for the headliners. And the CEO gets on TikTok. I woke up this morning with 6,000 empty bays because there's no technicians. There's a technician shortage, and it's not a part shortage. That's bullshit. It is. You don't either. He's lying, or he does not even know that they have a parts shortage problem or a parts delivery problem.
I saw so many people making videos about what Jim Farley said and shit, and even I did a panel on YouTube, and some of the questions were geared towards that, and I was kind of like the only guy sitting there thinking about these questions that were coming across, and I'm like, you guys are acting like Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, gives a fuck about anything except for his paycheck. Like, what do you like? Why are we even debating what he said? Do you expect him to be in touch with anything that you, Justin, that works at Ford in Bumblefuck, Iowa, as a mainline tech? Like, you really think Jim Farley knows or cares about your situation? No, not at all. It's just it's a talking point for the media to put out there to make people feel like they understand something that's going on within our own industry or an industry that they're not within. And, oh, well, that's why my car takes so long to get serviced. No, there's 1,000 wrong reasons why it takes your car that long to get serviced. Is it a technician shortage? Yeah, by all means. But like you said, do they have the parts? No. Like, how many parts have been on back order for 6 months to a year? Like a simple thermostat for a Pentastar engine, back order for like a year and a half, and no aftermarket. I think eventually Gates came out with a good enough thermostat for it, but for a good 6 months there, 9 months, you could put a thermostat in, the car wouldn't overheat, but you used an aftermarket and it would throw a PO 128 because it didn't warm up fast enough. And if you live in a state with state emissions inspections like me, you had a good year and a half where you might not have been able to get your car inspected because of a thermostat that couldn't be produced. So, I don't know. He's just, I don't look at that and go, oh, Jim Farley's an ass, or screw Jim. Jim Farley doesn't know. I've never run into him. He'll never hear this conversation we're having.
Right. And my thought is, if he doesn't know or he doesn't really give a shit, why is he going on TikTok? What kind of bright idea was somebody to go, hey, you need to get on TikTok or social media and say that you woke up this morning, and you actually woke up this morning in your freaking multi-million-dollar mansion. The first thing you thought of, man, all the bays, 6,000 bays are empty at the dealerships. I call bullshit on that, too. You really think he cares, right?
Right. And I think wasn't that a major news channel interview that just ended up on TikTok, or did he do that? Like, I thought that was from like ABC this morning or CBS this morning or something like that. But either way, I mean, I don't know. That's his job as CEO, is to go out there and do interviews that are pre-scripted, and his team writes what he's got to say for his pre-scripted interviews. It doesn't matter. It has no effect or bearing on our industry what he thinks.
No, I would agree, and I'll show you how much I didn't give a shit. I didn't go any further than TikTok and watching that. I'm sure there's an interview somewhere, absolutely, but I didn't even care because it's like, it doesn't matter to me either. And I find a lot of this stuff doesn't matter to me. The right to repair stuff, I don't really get into that. I don't really want to make it bigger than it is. Is it a problem? I don't really know. That's how much I haven't looked into it, because right now I haven't had a problem getting information or just paying for a subscription, my FDRS, my IDS2. I don't have to tell you. And like I was telling somebody on a podcast, I remember back in the day, you could cheat and use a module on your Master Tech for 4 years. You would just lie on the year of the vehicle. That shit's gone. I mean, scan tools are a real expensive endeavor. You know that. I don't have to tell you. But what I found really cool is you get all these different scan tool companies coming out for all the software. There's a lot of different tools out there. When I was coming up, there wasn't. There was MasterTech. We had the StarTech for the Fords. It looked like a shark, hammerhead shark. There's only a couple scan tools. My Tech 2, Tech 1. I mean, you guys, your younger generation, thank God, because there's so many more computers, you guys have a lot better scan tools than we did. We used a scope most of the time because it was ignition problems or EGR problems, negative back pressure EGR valves, G-vans, for God's sake. That's how complicated our shit was. So it's definitely, everything's changed. And one of the things I think is really cool is how you dive into all the electronics. Let's talk about how deep you got into all the modules and reprogramming and all the shit you do, because some of the stuff you do is crazy.
It was a natural progression, I guess. When I got into this industry, I kind of like realized within the first year or so that I didn't really love working on cars as much as I loved figuring out what was wrong with the car and then fixing the car and then knowing that I fixed the car. I've never been someone that wanted to be a parts slinger. I had a real interest in what the technology was at the time, which we're talking like 2003-ish. I started really, paying attention and got my first job at like Sears as a tire tech. I knew instantly that it would be the technology. Unfortunately, what I tell people all the time that ask, like, oh, hey, how do I kind of want to do what you do, but I have no experience as a mechanic. Well, sorry, man, I had to hoof it out for the first, 15 years of my career before I would get to the point where I could find a job at a shop and not specifically even, I still had to do grunt work, but be the guy that was given the diagnostics at the shop, So 15 years before I got to be the guy in the shop I wanted to be, and then started my business, needed more powerful scan tools than just the Snap-on that I had. Eventually, you save up a little money, you buy something nice, you find out at another job there's a function you can't do. Oh, wait, but that scan tool could do it. Then you buy that scan tool. Then I find out, oh, wait, I finally have to program something. We're getting into the day and age where independent shops are running into something that needs to be programmed. How am I going to program this? No information out there on programming at the time. Not by any means like there is today. So I went and I bought, what did I do? Pre-programmed PCMs is where I first started to run into things that would need programming. So I went to Flagship 1 and I was getting PCMs through them, and they were horrible. I usually call them Spaceship 2, but I said their name, whatever. So I got enough bad modules from them. I went, all right, now I need to learn how to program. Fastest bet was to get a Rap 2 to facilitate it for the shop. Found something that the Rap 2 couldn't do. All right, now I really got to learn it. Started with a simple laptop and GM programming. Then GM turned into GM and Ford. That turned into GM, Ford, and Chrysler. That turned into European and Asian. And then that turned into, oh shit, I have no way to program this back-ordered used module and I can't use the used one. So now I got to figure out what is everyone talking about with cloning. Now I got to figure out cloning. Oh, okay, wait, now I learned there's an EEPROM in a computer. I can clone through the EEPROM. This is over a very long period of time, by the way. Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm running into modules. The EEPROM can't be cloned. I got to get to the MCU. Shit, how am I going to read the MCU? Let's buy a couple more tools. We buy more tools. It just progressively gets to more and more to where I've got sitting next to me probably $20,000 worth of equipment just for cloning and programming and EEPROM and MCU, just to accomplish tasks that can't be solved with straight up get a new module and program it, essentially. So it's a never-ending cycle. I could sit here and talk to you for 4 hours about the progression that got me into what I'm doing on a daily basis today.
No, you want to know? We had a fleet called Specialized Pharmacy. They're out of business now. They had G vans. They would deliver pharmaceuticals to nursing homes, and they ran with G vans. And when they started going bad, they came out. What was it? In 1997, I believe it was. They came out with the high light G vans. Remember them? And they put the PCM right underneath the washer bottle. So these guys are running these vans 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they're out of warranty in a month and a half. So we're all of a sudden getting all these weird transmission problems. That's when I was a tech out there. All these weird transmission problems. They would stall. Come to find out, washer solvent in the PCM, because the PCM's underneath the washer solvent bottle. So nobody was programming pass through. I got a hold of MasterTech. Jay from MasterTech came out. We made a Cat 5 cable because we didn't have laptops back then. We had 486 computers, 2 meg of RAM, that were $2,500 a piece. I would run a cable out of my office to the MasterTech. Through the MasterTech, it would program the PCM. I thought I was freaking God. So around town, I was programming everybody's PCMs. That's about the extent I got into it, because it just, at that point, after I started not working in the shop, I didn't have to do all that stuff. I had techs to do it. So I kind of backed out of that stuff. I've been a mechanic, obviously, my whole life, so I still help the guys with some of the problems. But this stuff has gotten so far. You've never heard me on my show saying, "Oh, I'm the God's gift to diagnostic world." I'm so removed from that. I have people that do it for me. You know what I mean? So I feel your pain, though, because every time I turn around, I need to buy a new software program. So that leads me into, you have to be profitable to be able to afford, the new DD15 software and stuff like that. And that's where knowing how much stuff costs and how much your techs cost and how much you charge people comes in. And I remember you talking about, you having your shop. It was a struggle, not only to charge enough, you felt bad for people, then you can't find the help to do the brakes, the front ends and stuff. So while you're over there trying to figure out how to clone something or program something, you can actually still be making a living.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I definitely had a staffing issue at the shop. I will always consistently say that the reason it failed is my fault, no matter what the circumstances are, because I was the owner. I mean, me and a partner, and it's, no matter what happened, if it went great, it would have been our fault. If it went bad like it did, it was our fault. But yeah, I mean, I still had the mobile business at the time, and I still had to do my mobile stuff, and I thought I could set up this shop to where I could just come in the morning, and at the end of the day, fight fires, stop in to diagnose things if I needed to. But when you can't find guys to do a brake job without coming back, and you're trying to facilitate having a mobile business and a shop, and you have sympathy brain, so you fucking discount everything for your customers just because they ask, it was just a whirlwind of this will never work. I've found out through that I'm a very good, single man owner, operator, business owner. Good at making money for myself. I treat myself as a business, not a person, obviously, with the amount of equipment I have to buy. And there is overhead to a mobile business, no matter what people think. But as far as being a shop owner, I'll probably never go that route again, But you're right. If I had to deal with figuring out why the brakes were squealing on the brakes one of my guys just did, I didn't have time to sink my head into what I love doing on a daily basis. And then the other thing too is when you think about kind of the overhead with the mobile thing too, you've got to buy, I mean, not that I'm doing heavy duty and stuff like that, but if I get a call for an Isuzu that needs programming and they have no other option but to use me, I'm going to have to shell out the, $2,200 for IDSS to be able to do that programming, unless I could go and borrow a laptop from a heavy duty shop I work at. So I'm going to spend that $2,200 to do a $600 programming, and I'll never use IDSS for diagnostics. You at least have the benefit of using your software for the diagnostics you do in-house. So, all these subscription costs and things that you have to buy yearly that guys like me that are mobile programming will never use. They'll use it maybe once a year. We're losing money just to get the job done to retain that customer that we have if there's no other solution. So.
No, I would agree with that. And then, well, you changed your business model where you work basically with shops only. So thank God, because it's really hard to articulate to Miss McGillicuddy when you pull in her yard that you're going to charge her $185 to pull her codes or $50 to pull her codes, or whatever. When AutoZone down the street will do it for free. They just don't understand that. That people want to pull. Oh, you have an O2 sensor code? Here's an O2 sensor, no warranty or no returns on electrical parts. Take it to the shop to get it put in, and then that causes a whole shitstorm for the poor shop owner when the lady comes walking in. The guy at AutoZone said, and you're like, oh God, yep. Here we go. You're right. So, the software, we try to, if we use software, like I have not bought Cummins Insight because I just pull the PCM out, and on the way home, I drop it off at Cummins and they reprogram it for me. you know what I mean? That, and I
Right.
can uptick it. That makes total sense to me. And I tell the guys, listen, we'll give you an hour for pulling the PCM out. We'll charge a customer an hour for dropping it off. And the customers are usually okay with that. And we're not buying and updating the software all the time just to do, we could, but I just don't see the value in it. Now, the Ford IDS and FDRS, we use it all the time. We work on a lot of Fords, I agree with you. The scan tool thing has gotten out of hand. It's expensive. And now they're talking about, I think Brandon Sloan was talking about they're going to do a subscription when you need to do a program. You just have to go and run it for that day. So I must have just re-upped
Well,
my IDS
so
time.
so yeah, a lot of them are like that. So GM, when I program GM, that's like $50 for a VIN for 2 years. So I spend $50. I have that VIN for 2 years, and I could program as many times that there are as many modules in the vehicle. So if it's got 13 modules in the vehicle, I can program whichever modules I want up to 13 times before I got to pay for that VIN. Ford, if you're doing a lot, I'm sure you're on a yearly subscription.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
for me, it doesn't really make sense because I'll have a 2 month period where I program uh, 15 Fords, and then for 8 months I won't see a Ford. So
Yep.
for me, it doesn't. If I know I've got a couple, I'll do a month. If I know I've got like one in a day, and I'm not sure if I have another one coming, I'll pay the $120 for the 2 day subscription, which that used to be 50. And then Chrysler, I mean, I'm paying out $150 of programming now for me to go there and do it. And again, still at that point, it's not worth it for me to invest into a yearly subscription because it's so hit or miss on what the shops in my area are going to get. And we have aftermarket tools that can do a lot as well as far as programming and shit too. So
Yeah, and it goes the other way too, because some of the dealers now have opened up their arms to other manufacturers. So I've been around my neighborhood for a long time, so we're cool with all the techs at these dealers. So they'll run by and have us program a Allison transform or stuff like that. So we can go over to the dealer now and go like, "Hey, do this for me," and they'll do that for us. So we have a synergy with the three dealerships around that we help each other out, and that has helped us immensely. As far as that go. But I will tell you, I want to go back on something we talked about or you brought up is taking ownership for screw ups in your shop. I'm going to give you a story. This is the first time I'm going to go into depth on this story. So my collision shop started getting a little bit slower. And my wife's like, "Man, is your marketing working?" I'm like, "Yeah, Kevin's been doing my marketing for, years. Why wouldn't it be working?" Well, I'd be talking to him all the time. "Oh, yeah, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, so I kind of just get curious. And I start seeing how much my websites are being published and all this stuff. They haven't been published in 5 months. So he's been
shit.
flat ass lying to me that he's doing my marketing and all this stuff. Okay. And you know what? I was like besides myself because I went to high school with this guy and everything. And I said, my wife's like, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, I know what I think." I said, "You want to know who fucked up?" She's like, "Well, he did." I said, "Nope, I fucked up." I said, "I'm the guy that's supposedly in charge. I have a podcast, tell everybody to run their shop and stuff, and I missed this, and I'll own it. Okay, I screwed up." So, I believe that's part of being grown up and being a business owner. You're going to fail. It's how you deal with your failures that defines you. I'm not going to say, "Well, he should have did this. He should have did. I paid him." Yeah, I paid him. He should have did it. Would have did it. Maybe I should have had a process to check it. Now, my new marketing guy, guess what I get every Friday? I get a freaking report,
a
right?
report, right.
Yeah, and I built a GPT where I drop the report into the GPT and say, "Is this bullshit?" And it freaking goes out and checks it, say, "Nope, this is all legit." But live and learn, right? So I was
Yeah.
down quite a bit of money from not having the work that I should have because my marketing wasn't working. On the plus side, my marketing's working great now, and I think we're going to recover. It's not like we're going out of business, but I can't say nothing besides I fucked up. I should have paid attention. Maybe I should have, I don't know. Maybe I should make a marketing day. I mean, as a shop owner, if you're a one-man show, there's only so much you could do on a daily basis. You kind of got to figure out what's the most important thing that day to do as a shop owner. And any shop owner that says, "Oh, I could do whatever I want, however I want, when I want," is bullshit because you have layers of management and stuff like that. But people get sick, people mess up, stuff happens. unforeseen circumstances happen, and you as the owner are the only one that's going to probably be able to make that decision. Your managers can be good, but at the end of the day, it's your money, so you got to kind of get with them and have them bring you the right information so you can make that decision.
Yeah, 100%. I think that being able to look back on yourself and realize that like everything, it's your business, everything falls on you in the end, is one of the very few reasons that I hear people say all the time. Actually, I've got one of the shops I go to, he's been in like a 3-year battle with an old partner of an old shop that he's been in. And then another shop I go to, and then another shop are two guys that used to be partners. Now they're 3 miles from each other and they fucking hate each other. And it seems like everyone I've ever spoken to that had a business fail while having a partner, they're at each other's throats. And luckily, because myself and my partner that I had in the shop are both able to look within ourselves and realize that it's our fault, me and him are still like best friends, you know? So, I mean, I definitely, there's benefit to being self-reflective enough to shit on yourself and not blame it on other people.
You got that right. And, you know, and another thing that helps is having a good relationship with people around town, other shop owners. I don't have every other shop owner around town can call me. I call them. We talk. I just have never been that guy. I don't really treat these guys as like my competition because I think we're all in the same shitstorm together. It's what I always tell them. They want to call it, borrow a tool. Here you go. I don't care. Can I go get this tool? Yep. You know, it's not a problem. And I think that a lot of shop owners, you know, they can't understand why their shop's failing is because of them. And that leads me into the processes, okay? Is you owning a brick and mortar, you have to have processes in place to have the same thing happen over and over again to cut down on mistakes. Intake, like you were talking about. People doing intake. You have to train your people to do intake the correct way and do it the same way over and over again so you can kind of have a process. And some of these guys don't. They want to come in, and I talked about this weeks ago about being an owner, and you could probably attest to this. You cannot short circuit your processes in your shop. Like I walk by sometimes, and I told this story, I walked by and Mrs. White was sitting there talking about her truck, and I freaking opened my big mouth and just opened a can of worms. I walked to my office like, what the fuck was I doing? I should have just kept my mouth shut and kept on walking. Just because I own the place doesn't mean I have the right to come in and short circuit the stuff I put in place and I want these people to do, and I'm going to come in there and step all over it, make a mess, then leave. You got to just let your people do what they're supposed to do. But this is where I'm going to say I'm hard. When they don't do their job, goddamn right, I walk up and go, I pay you a lot of money to do this job. If you're not doing the job, we're going to have to replace you. I don't fire people, but I do say, listen, you have to do your job or we will replace you. That conversation probably comes after, what, the 4th or 5th time? But I am not that guy to walk in there and go, oh, you're sad today? Oh, I understand. That's okay that you just gave them rotors away. You didn't charge for them. I hope you feel better. Am I making you sad? Oh, I'm making you sad? I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. That's the way some of these shop owners do because they have to deal with these young punk-ass kids that are crybabies. And I'm going to make everybody mad right now, but that's the bottom line is we have a technician shortage. We also have a man shortage in America. There's not enough men. There's a lot of boys that think they're men.
I agree. I mean, I have to when I put out my videos, I have to be a little bit more careful what I say because of the context, which you I think have learned. It's so easy for people to take stuff out of context, but yeah, people want to call it like toxic masculinity. Yeah, it's a blue-collar business filled with a bunch of guys. You kind of need a little bit of that toxic masculinity to make it in a business where you're going to be, like, breaking fingers every so often. You're going to cut yourself every single day. You're going to go home. Your back's going to fucking hurt. It's a part of the job. I don't know. It used to be cool to be a man. I don't know what the hell happened.
Yeah, I know they all ride scooters with man buns now. I don't get it. Funny story, Lincoln, my 18-year-old son, he started working down at Garrett Auto and Truck. He wants to learn the business part of it, so he's a service advisor down there. And the guys really started giving him a hard time. And he would come home, he's like, man, Dad, they gave me a hard time, and they hung a picture of a tampon machine on my truck, and, I don't know what to do. I said, I do. Freaking go take a picture and print it and put it on their toolbox. Start teasing them back. Right now, they're basically trying you on for size. Don't be a little bitch, which he's not anyway.
Right.
So he's like, all right. So now they call him the boss because he walks out there and he just gives them all a hard time. But they think it's funny. and they have accepted him, right? They're going to help him and stuff. All my guys are great, but it was hard for me as a father to see them. They rode him like Seabiscuit for weeks. And I'm like, well, he's either going to get tough or die. And he would tell my wife's actually a little bit more, you can see by my podcast with her last week. She's like, stop being a little bitch. You'll be fine. They're not going to kill you. You'll be fine. Stop whining. And it was kind of funny to see that, but how many people that their kids went to work because they thought they wanted to be a mechanic because, they have a crotch rocket, so they get a job as a lube tech, and they screw something up, and then they get yelled at, and they go home, and they say, Mom, I got yelled at because I left the oil out of a car and burned it up. And they're like, well, you shouldn't go back there. They're toxic there. They treat you bad. Their leadership's horrible. And then they just, basically, it's like petting a dog that bites. They say if a dog bites somebody, you don't pick the dog up and pet it because that's reinforcing that the dog did the right thing, right? It's no different with a child. And people don't get that.
Yeah, no, they don't. And a lot of that, again, kind of goes back to I wanted to be a mechanic. I was at a time where it was hard for me to find a job as a mechanic because there was no shortage. There weren't so many open positions at places. You literally had to go to 20, 30 shops before you could find someone that actually needed someone working there or was willing to hire you with basically no experience. And, when I got into it, I got heckled from day one, and I was like, okay, so this is what it is. What am I going to involve my mom in this for? There's no point. This is my job. It's not her job. So, it's not her job. I want to be a mechanic. And that first place that I worked at, they were back then being an asshole was acceptable and also like it was funny at the same time. So it's like your boss telling you to take your head out of your ass was never like something that would make me want to go in the back and cry. That was like, oh, I got to pull my head out of my ass. And look, my boss is being cool with me because he's saying pull your head out of your ass. That's how I saw it at the time. But my boss at that first shop that I stopped at or got a job at, he instilled something in my head that made me really understand the implications of not doing a good job. So if we think about your alignment tech, all right, listen, it's alignment. He's, if he doesn't get the diagnosis correct and the car goes down the road and the customer complains, it's not like he's killing the customer. But if he leaves jam nuts loose, he might do that. And I was maybe 5 months in, and I had a old S10s down in Delaware. And my boss was like, all right, put shocks on this truck. And everything was new to me at this point. So I was like, this is my first set of, shocks to go on anything for me. And it was the front. And you remember they used to have, you'd have the rod from the strut, and then you had the top washer, the bottom washer, the two bushings, and then the nut. And the two bushings would go around the strut tower, essentially, and that's really all that kind of held that strut in there. So I put the struts in. I must have done something wrong. I didn't put the bushings correct, or I didn't put the washers correct or something. So the shocks were probably flopping around in there. And again, just this is the context of this is how serious this industry used to be and how you had to take something like without going home and crying to mom. So it's like a week after I do these shocks, and the boss comes up to me. He goes, you remember that S10 you put those fucking shocks on? And I'm like, yeah, I remember, of course. That was my first shock job. You know why? And he's like, you fucked up. You didn't put them on correctly. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, yeah, she got in an accident. Wheel went loose. She drove into a ditch, slammed it in the steering wheel, busted all her teeth out of her face. And dude, my heart dropped. I was like, what the fuck? That was a moment where I wanted to cry, but I was too fucking like instantly stressed out. But I'm like, holy fucking shit. I just caused this girl to, it was his daughter that was driving the truck. I just caused this girl to bust her teeth out of her face and get in a fucking accident. I went back by the brake pads, and I had like a mini panic attack. Like I was like, dude, I couldn't breathe. I felt like my chest was all heavy. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? It's like that existential dread feeling, and I'm like, I can't make this right anyway. A million different thoughts going through my head, and I took like a real hard look around, and I had to think about like, do I want to do this? Like, do I want to be in this fucking industry? And I had to sit there. I sat there probably 20 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, I do. This is what I want to do. I got to figure out how to make this right or what. Like, I don't, like, what the fuck? Like, it was really, like I'm reliving it right now almost. So so I go back up front and I go to my boss and I'm like, I forget what I said to him, but basically like, dude, like what can I do? Or he's like, listen, it wasn't your fault that she got in the accident. I mean, it was your fault that you put the struts in wrong. 100%. They were in there like shit because it was his friend's truck, and he went to go look at it. He's like, you put him in like shit, but that's not what caused the accident. And still, at that moment, like that stuck with me throughout my entire career. But I didn't cry and then quit on Monday, and that's what seems to be the newest. That you put that on someone today, and they'll sue you for lying to them that you weren't the one that made her bust her teeth out of her face. Meanwhile, back when I was in it, I mean that's like that's a career altering story for me. You know.
That I have a story just like that. Cappy Heating and Cooling. I was having problems with my girlfriend cheating on me. Just got my job at Garrett Auto and Truck, which I now own. I put freaking bearings, pinion bearings in and carrier bearings in it. Went and got on my little cell phone to argue with her in the back behind the bathroom. Put it all together. Never put gear lube in it. Take it down the road, down M5. Damn, this thing's starting to like act like it has a plugged fuel filter. Man, this thing's slowing down. Oh, fuck. I didn't put gear lube in. Kaboom! Out comes the pinion off the top of the freaking housing. Freaking thing locks up. I go to the other road, look underneath it, ready to throw up. Some guy pulls up. The grass is on fire from the pinion head. Puts the fire out. I take the keys. He said, would you like a ride back? I said, yeah. I take the keys. I lay them in his fucking cup holder in his van. He drives me back to the shop. And fucking, I leave the keys in the guy's truck. He drives away with the customer's keys. I didn't know who he was. So not only had to tell my boss, I told Steve, I said, I have a problem. And I told him that. And then I can't find the keys. I go, and he's bitching at me. He's like, you need to pull your head out of I remember I was standing right by the brake. You need to pull your head out of your fucking ass. That girl has got you fucking going every direction. You fucked up the Mercury Villager last week. You drilled the stud off the cylinder head crooked. So we had to switch the exhaust manifold. Now this. And I go, and by the way, and I'm ready to cry because we didn't have no money back then. We were broke. I go, I don't have the keys. I left them, and the guys gave me a ride back. He's like, what the fuck? And he's like yelling at me. I remember going back in the bathroom in the locker room and sitting down and crying. And I was like 22, and I'm in there crying. And I came out, and you can totally tell, my eyes are red and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, I don't give a shit that you feel sad. I was just like, yeah. It couldn't have got any worse.
But you didn't quit.
No. I came back because I wanted to be a mechanic. I wanted to fix shit. I remember when I became a mechanic, I would go to the mall to meet my dad for dinner. I was proud to wear the mechanic's outfit, believe it or not, like my uniform and stuff like that, because I was part of something, and I would actually fix this stuff. I remember getting 2 ratchets repoed out of my toolbox from the Mac man. I could not afford to pay him $10 a week. I was making $400 a week salary. I would take home $296.10 a week, and I would work like 60 hours. I was probably making $1 an hour by the time all the hours I worked, but I was happy because I was fixing shit. I was part of something. It was crazy. The honor and people being proud of stuff like that nowadays, in my opinion, is gone. There's a far and few between. It's taken me, the last guy that walked in my shop, he worked at Roush. You've heard of Roush before, right? He moved in next door to me, and he was a mechanic at Roush. And I really liked this guy. I said, you'll be working for me within a year. So I became friends with him. I, courted him, and I hired him. That was 4 years ago. That was probably 15 years before he came in. And now 2 years later, the guy down the street fired a kid that had a mouth on him and stuff. He's pretty talented. I hired him. He loves working for me. He's like, you don't yell at us. If we screw up, you look at us and go, you're a dumbass. You did that. We'll fix it and we'll get on with life. He's like, my other boss used to scream at me. He's like, you don't yell at people. It's really weird. I said, dude, I've been there. I've broken shit. And I tell stories to the guys of shit I've messed up, and they laugh their ass off because when they break something, I want them to understand that I've been there. I'm not a guy who decided to buy a shop one day and then can sit there and yell at somebody that leaves some oil out. Or it happens in our world. It just does.
It does, yeah, 100%. I was up at it was a customer actually. He owns a shop, obviously, but it was a customer that's turned into like a good friend of mine at this point. I was up at his shop the other day, And we were just talking about his employees and stuff, and he goes, the one kid that's been there for like a year, he's like, I would never fire him because he has the integrity. No matter how much he screws up, he wants to do a good job. I guess last week he had a car that they did an oil change on. Car drove down to Jersey, came back up on a tow truck. So it had gotten an oil change at his shop right before it went for the Jersey trip. So he looked underneath it, and sure enough, the drain plug's missing. So when they were driving through Jersey sometime after this oil change, the drain plug never got tightened, obviously, and loosened up along the trip. So he went to the camera footage. I'm making sure, I'm trying real hard not to say any names here. He went to the camera footage. He looked at the camera footage, and he saw this employee go under the car with the drain plug, no tool, come out from underneath the car with his phone in his hand, and then walk around the shop for a second, and then come back and lower the car. So he sees that he never tightened the the drain plug. So he gave him an ultimatum. He said, if you want to continue working here, there's no more phone during the day. Now this is like a 20, 21-year-old kid. That's tough for a 20, 21-year-old kid to not have their phone throughout the day. And he has so much integrity and wants to do this job so much that he said, okay, no problem. I'll leave my phone in the car. And that's, while it may be hard to find, it's nice to know that that still exists in a sense in some of the guys in the younger generation. And if we can attract those kinds of guys, it's maybe there's hope,
No, I have two younger guys right now as techs. I'd say they're B techs, and they show up for work every day. But I will tell you, they were raised like we were. The one kid, Nick, that works for me, he was on my podcast. His dad was a body tech for 40 years. Worked at a dealer for 40 years as a body tech. I love his dad. His dad's a sourpuss. Everything's a pain in the ass to that guy because he's been a dealer tech in the body world his whole life. Goddamn, everything's a mess. But you know what? He made his kids go to work and work hard. The other kid, the younger kid than me, same deal. Jason, who's been with me 19 years now, his dad makes all these kids work. So it all leads to having a strong father figure. All these kids do not have a problem coming to work and getting bitched at and getting in trouble and staying and doing their job. It's just kind of like take your lumps and live with it, My guys out at the body shop, same thing. I got one that was a Marine. He's like, I could take an ass chewing like nobody you ever seen. And he's been yelled at quite a bit over the years, but he loves us, Jim, my older guy out here at Motor City, he's older than me. His dad yelled at him. He has a strong father figure, no problem. You know what I mean? All these guys that work with me are like-minded. So the problem we have is we get these guys that come in there a week. Like we had one guy, this is a true story. He would literally come in and the guys at the body shop would go, hey, how's your weekend? Why do you always ask me about my personal life? I kept walking in. I'm like, what did you say to him? He's like, I asked him what he did this weekend. And the guy looked at me and he goes, yeah, he always asked me, what did you do last night? What did you do this weekend? That's my personal business. I go, dude, what the fuck? I go, he's just basically saying, hey, how you doing? What did you do? Like starting conversation. He ended up quitting over it. You guys are just too nosy. You always want to know what I did last night.
That's crazy. There's a lot of us out there that are really quirky in this industry, but that's an interesting one to quit over that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, and people are going to say, oh, here we go. He didn't give us all the context. The guy would call me up when I'd be at the other shop saying, so-and-so said something to me, and he'd be crying. And I'd have to get in my truck and come out there and get everybody together and go, what happened? And he'd be over there sobbing. And he's a full-grown man. He was 28 or 29. Well, so-and-so said this to me, and I'm like, and you're crying over it? I'm like, dude, you're never going to make this business. Stop being such a bitch. But after a while, he just ended up quitting because he couldn't handle them guys talking to him like that. And come to find out, his dad, he would run his mom and dad's house. He would yell at his mom and dad and not listen to his mom and dad, tell them how stupid they are when he lived in their house. So it just goes to show you what he just couldn't handle it, getting what he was giving out at home, So you start to find out all these stuff from these people, and I'm sure I'm going to get flamed for a lot of this stuff. But as you probably know, I don't really give a shit what people on social media say because it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So what are they going to do, cancel me? okay. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't, I don't, I don't know if all of it really comes from how you're raised. To be honest, like me, I grew up stupid poor. Um, I was lucky that I learned how to make soup at 6. On the stovetop at points. You know what I mean? I had a I had a rough, almost absent childhood. Um, I saw my dad on some weekends and stuff. Well, one thing, and me and my dad are very close now. You know what I mean? But one thing, that I saw from him was that he was consistently at work, which sucked, as a kid when I would go to visit because he'd be working the whole time. But at the same time, I feel like if we talk about it, how you're raised, that did instill into me that, um, I needed to work my ass off to survive as an adult. But I mean, dude, I'm a high school dropout. I moved out on my own when I was 16. I lived in my car for probably a year and a half of my life, not consistently, but a year and a half of, different times. I couch surfed. I did not have my shit together by any means. I couldn't even take care of myself till I was like 27. So I don't think a lot. I don't think it's all upbringing. I think a lot of it is just who you are as a person and how much you want to do the job that you want to do. You know.
I would agree, but what I'm trying to say to you is you learn something from every situation, no matter good or bad, right? You learn that you have to freaking work to succeed. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes people get stuff put in their way, and if they take advantage of it, it's like Henry Ford says, opportunity knocks. Someday it might come to your door wearing overalls, right? Meaning,
Right.
you might have to go and freaking get dirty to do work. But I always look at everything is you can learn something from everything, bad or good. And I still do believe a strong father figure in the house. And I'm not saying that there's not still strong father figures out there. I just think that people need direction in their life, and I think that's the dad's job. And I always tell my kids, I go, my daughter last night, she stayed the night, and it was actually really cool. She's 36 years old, and she was giving me a hard time, and she's like, my friends asked, does your dad still bitch at you? She said, oh, yeah, my dad still calls up and yells at me and says, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you doing that? And she's like, their dads don't do that. I said, well, I'm going to do that to the day I die. I said, because everybody needs to fear somebody. When you do something stupid, what's the first thing you think of? She's like, you, Dad. I hope Dad doesn't find out. He's going to call me and say, what the hell's wrong with you? But that's just me, and I love my kids just on the other thing. I'll do anything for them, but I've always been hard on them and made them toe the line, but they're all successful. You know what I mean? Kids. I never worried about hurting their feelings. So,
Right.
I hope
Right.
I'm not coming up too big of a dick, but I really want people to understand that sometimes you need to tell people the hard truth. As probably you do too. I mean, you don't seem like a guy that sugarcoats stuff.
No, I'm direct about what I say, and then sometimes people take that. I mean, maybe I am an asshole, but they take that as me being being an asshole just to be an asshole. And I'm not being an asshole just to be an asshole. I'm just explaining to you very directly why you're wrong. You're wrong, and that's the facts of the situation. So I'm explaining that directly. You're correct. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That is what it is.
Yeah.
I in the comments in the stitch I did of your alignment video. Um, uh, Dustin Geisel, Mr. Master Tech, he actually Snapchatted me because I replied back to a comment of his, and he's like, "Dude, did I do something to piss you off or something?" I was like, "No." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, your comment, it just seemed like I pissed you off or something." I'm like, "No, I'm just very direct." And he's like, "Sometimes I got to remember that I'm in Ohio and you're from New York." I'm like, "Yeah, that's all it is." I'm like, literally
Well,
all it is.
no, it's interesting. Here's lesson 102 for me with social media. I hand my wife my phone. I go, what the fuck is this person even trying to say? If I have a problem with my personality or a hitch or whatever you want to call it, if you're not 100% direct when you're typing to me, I really not really good at trying to understand what you're trying to say. Like if you want to call me an asshole, go, you're an asshole. I'll go, oh, okay, I'm an asshole. I don't understand all this freaking bullshit. You ever watch that show Justified, Boyd Crowder? How he talks about 300 words when you could say basically go over there and pick up that bottle of water. He'd be like, well, go over there, walk around the corner. And he's so much verbiage. And that's why I get lost. So I don't even read a lot of these comments because I don't even understand what these people are saying. And then I hand it to my wife. I go, what are they trying to say? She's like, I have no fucking clue. too.
I
It's
literally,
not
I
just
ask
me.
people in the comments. I ask people in the comments all the time, like, can you rephrase that or can you reword that? Because I'm interested in what you have to say, but this doesn't make any sense. And then your comments crack me up. Literally, it's like, what did that person say? They said, stuff that never happened, number 2 or something like that. You're like, call my shop. And you put the phone number up of the shop. You're like, ask the guys if it really happened. It was like literally the phone number to your shop. It had me freaking dying, man. And then when I saw your message, um, I saw your message to me after my comment that I left on Mr. Master Text before I made my video. I was like, oh, I was like, shit, Kevin wants to call me. Oh, that's cool. I was like, awesome. And I read your message, and it's like, because I think there might be some things we should talk about or something. I'm like, oh, awesome. All right, very cool. So I call you. I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on? And you're like, listen, I tell people in the comments all the time, I'm very direct. Just call my shop if you don't believe me. I'm like, well, I mean, just so you know, I agreed with your video, and it kind of sounded like you were like, oh, shit, okay, oh, I didn't know that was the case. All right, here we go.
I do. I have no problem calling guys and go, hey, what did you mean by that? I'll call your shop and go, what did you mean by that? And they'll tell me. I'm like, all right, cool. Like me and Jeff Compton have talked a couple times. Like, dude, he's like, we agree. We just don't agree. We mean the same thing, but we don't really agree. It's kind of funny, but I have no problem picking up the phone because last thing I did to get on social media is to argue with fucking other people. If you have a problem, just give me a call or I'll give you a call and we'll talk. It is. And you know that guy, I know what he said? I'm not calling your shop. I'll just give you a 1-star review. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
no.
fun. Did he?
Feelings. No. I got attacked by a wolf. Did I tell you that?
What?
I got attacked by a wolf.
What happened?
I got a 1-star review from a furry, a guy that thinks he's a wolf. And he says, do not use this shop. He uses AI to fix cars. His employees or his mechanics can't do nothing. You can go and look at it. And I look him up, and he's a freaking dressed as a wolf, and he calls himself Mr. Wolfie or some shit. So I have my guys, and we're laughing so hard. We look him up, and he is a guy who's with another guy, and they are wolves. So I write back, go howl at the moon and all this long bullshit thing. And he's like, don't threaten me. I said, I'm not threatening you. I just want to show people that you're mentally ill. You think you're a wolf and you're giving me a hard time. Like, I don't even understand. It was funny as shit, but he yeah, you're sitting there wagging tails and and I said, I'm out of kibbles and bits. I got nothing for you. But the guy thinks he's a wolf. And I'm like, only in America where the wolves are attacking me. So
that's crazy, man. That's nuts.
Yeah. So we were laughing about that stuff. But running a shop, you either got to love it or hate it. And there's some days there's a little bit of both, I think. And I still love what I do, and I still don't mind going around to other shops and helping some of these guys straighten out their numbers like I do and stuff like that. So when I retire from my shops, I can go around and help other shop owners because I do like the industry. And you know what? It's not for the weak of hearted. I mean, it's a hard industry. But the good thing is, hopefully, with this mechanic shortage, is people will wake up and start paying technicians more money.
Yep.
I get
asked consistently. I get asked, and I always have the same answer. People go, well, all right, so let me ask you, Chuck, how do we how do we start bringing new people into this industry and retain it? I'm like, I've been saying it for years. Raise labor rates, and that extra money you just raised them to, you take your exact situation. Hey, I'm doing really good with my labor rate. You raise that labor rate. In your situation, you're flat rate, so you might not necessarily have to. But to attract younger people that have already been taught to hate flat rate, which I'm not a big flat rate proponent, but I'm also not completely against it. You got to be able to hire these kids at more than Burger King is paying down the road, which is $20 an hour. So you raise your labor rate, and that money is used directly per hour to go to attracting new employees so that you can afford to have them mess up on your dime and you can pay them a decent wage to start getting into this. I mean, that's it. Quite literally, I realize it's an industry-wide shift, but I think it's something that would kind of cascade. I don't think everyone would have to decide to do it at the same time, but we're the buttholes of the industry, charging less than the vast majority of independent repair shops are sub $200 an hour. I don't have actual numbers on it, but I'd go to guess maybe 90%. There's no reason that we should be with all of the shit that we have to invest into, not just as individuals like myself, but shop owners of shops, the people that work there. Whatever you're doing, there's so much investment in this industry that there's no reason we should be a $200 an hour industry when an electrician comes to your house. And I'm also not putting down electricians. He's there for an hour and a half. He used what he probably spent on $50 on materials, and it's $1,000 or $1,200 bill. Like, good for the electrician for making that. Why are we not?
No, I agree with you. And my one guy, Nick, he's still hourly because I said if I took you off hourly and put you on flat rate, you would crash and burn and you would quit. So I'm going to sit here and pay you the hourly wage I pay you till you get good enough where you won't fail. And how we're going to do that, we're going to do an average and see what your average is. When your average is more than you're making hourly for a year, that's when we're going to talk. You're going to have bad weeks. You're going to have good weeks. We're going to do an average. And at that point, we'll move you to flat rate. And I've done that before. Now, with the key people in your shop, your lead techs, you can't leave them on flat rate and expect them to go around and help everybody else. So what I do is I say, okay, I'm not going to give a number out, but I say, okay, I'm going to pay you $800 a week to show up. So your paycheck as a flat rate tech and A tech starts at $800. So maybe the 10 hours or 5 hours or whatever hours you spend that week helping the younger guys, you're already covered. You can still do your 40 hours or 30 hours and still make a good living. And I asked Jason, my head guy, and he's also a 10% owner at Garrett Auto and Truck. You want to go off flat rate? Am I playing that? He said, fuck no. I want to be on flat rate. That's how I make money. I'm okay with flat rate. Right. But I don't cheat them guys. And, my two key guys at Motor City and at Garrett's, I've said this before, I gave them each 10% of the company. They get 10% of the profits. You think people would be like, wow, that's pretty cool. People are like, what's their ROI? What? What's their ROI? Return on investment? I gave them 10% of the company. They get 10% of the profits. Okay. Another guy's like, well, do they have to pay 10% of the taxes? No. Then another guy's like, well, you put golden handcuffs on them. I gave them 10% of the company. When Jason wants to buy it, he's going to get 10% discount. His succession plan names him. When I sell this place, Jim Gray's getting 10% of the sales price. Simple as that. I have a contract with a lawyer that wrote him up. Why? Because I want these guys to understand that I'm invested in them just like they're invested in me. You know what I mean? So they get 10% of the profits. And they get decent checks at the quarterly or depending on which company it is, and they're happy because I'm not a greedy shop owner. There's enough money to go around. People think these shop owners think their employees are stupid. They say, "Oh man, I can't afford to give you another $2 an hour, but I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm going to Cabo with my family for Easter. Make sure you work your ass off and do a good job so I make more money while I'm gone." And then they wonder why people have a bad attitude. And how many times have you heard that over the years? I just know my cousin quit a dentist's office because they wouldn't give her $1 an hour raise. We can't afford that. So you're going to let her walk out the door for, what, $1, $40? What's wrong with you? But some of these people these business owners can't get out of their own way. Now some of these shops that won't pay their guys. You ever notice when all of a sudden their lead tech's leaving? He's like, hey, I got a job for $10 more an hour. We'll just use that number. All of a sudden that owner could come up with $10 more an hour who couldn't afford it. You ever notice that?
Yep.
So
Yeah. I mean, so in my area, we don't really, I don't see on a regular basis that, and I've never really worked for, like I worked for a couple owners that were like, they were very well off. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we as employees were very well paid. So when they went off on their, 6 different vacations a year, we'd all make fun of them for going on their 6 vacations a year. But at the same time, we all just worked as we normally did and picked up, what they couldn't do when they weren't there. But we were well paid there, so it wasn't a big deal. But in my normal area, a lot of the vast majority of shops in my area are still owner operated. And they have technicians working for them as well, and they're not buying boats and mansions and stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure there's big shops in my area that do float that way and stuff. But I see it as like when I got into this, I didn't want to be like being a gas station tech in a 2-bay gas station. That was like my dream job right there, and having it be some sort of speed shop. Like, cool, this is, this looks great. I didn't want to work in a Firestone or, a big place like that. So I think if systematically a lot of the little guys, the you know 3 to 10 employee shops and stuff like that were the ones to really jack raise their labor rate up and make sure that they remember that that goes to the investment into the employees, that it really would it would change a lot.
Yeah, we take we didn't do it this year yet, but we usually take all our people out. Just we take them to a steakhouse. There's one in Lansing. We took both companies, all the guys at both companies, their wives and everything, out for dinner one night. We bought them like the 3-pound tomahawk steaks. We all just have dinner
Nice.
and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the bill was like $1,800 for us to go to dinner. But you know what? I look at that. It's like everybody was so happy and everybody was so cool. And we do good. So like I have no problem doing that. Now I will tell you, my first boss, the guy that paid me $400 a week, he treated me really good, but he'd cut your throat for $1.
Right.
He would cut your throat for $1. He was there to make money, and it was very clear. You know, he treated me good, and I respected him for that. He just sold his shops a couple years ago for a lot of money. He's 60 years old, retired, and living the life. You know, I don't want to be that guy. When I leave, I want my guys to like me. Like the company my wife worked at for 30 years. The guy who started in his garage. He's the guy that invented Trex and car washes and stuff like that. He's the guy that it's a company called NLB Corporation. They do high pressure water blasters, like 40,000 psi water blasters, to clean scale off ships and stuff like that. And that man's legacy, when he left, he built a company and he sold it for a lot of money. He gave everybody $1,000 that was there for 10 years or more, for $1,000 for every year after 10 years. So back then, when he sold the place, my wife got $15,000. Dude, that was life-changing money to us. We were broke. And I still remember that. You know what I mean? And they sold the business. He passed away and stuff like that. And the new leadership team seems to want to have the same legacy as this man, but they're not going to have it. He started the business. My wife, he would yell at people and scream at people and tell them dumbasses, engineers and everything, but they all loved him. They all came to work. They respected him. I think that's
Right.
gone now. You know, I think corporate America in a lot of cases has ruined it. You know, the respect is just not there.
A lot is, but I think a lot of that is with the rise of, there's always been chain stores and like that. But I mean, my area, you go 2 miles down the road, you get to a Mavis. You go 2 more miles down the road, you get to a Mavis. You go 2 more miles down the road, you get to a Mavis. You get another 2 miles down the road, you get to a Sears. There's huge, auto repair chains in my area that have convinced people that that's the better place to go, because we're going to get it done faster, even though every time they go there they tell them it's an hour wait and they're there for 8 hours, but yet that's going to be the fastest place they could go. I don't know. I just, again, if these independent shops, these 3 to 10 man teams can use money to try to attract the right people over here, those chains will get the bottom of the barrel employees, and then things will start to equalize out. But no one except for those little 3 to 10 employee shops are trying to leave any kind of legacy anymore. It's just profits. It's corporate.
No, I would agree with that. The other problem we run into in our industry, and I cannot say there's enough, these guys, these shop owners don't even know how to mark stuff up because they don't know how to run their business. They're not making any money, so they expect everybody to sit there and make zero money. So this is where the corporate America kicks the small guy's ass, because the bean counters know they can pay a guy $10 more an hour. They need to charge $10 more an hour, and they're going to have all the help. That's the problem. These shop owners need to get with the program and understand how expensive stuff is to run, and benefits and stuff like that. And it all comes into our labor rate's $217 an hour at my shop.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
It's a lot of money, but when COVID was going on, we didn't close because we work on fire engines and stuff like that. And I told my guys, I go, I don't know what's going to happen. Do you guys, I'm not closing. If I have to work here by myself, I'm not going to sit home, because once I stop making money in these places, it's really hard to climb out of the hole. I've been there before, and I'm not doing it. They're like, hell no, we'll all work. And I said, I don't know if we'll have to take pay cuts or what. I don't know if things are going to slow down. Well, all of a sudden, we got so busy. I didn't raise my labor rates, but we started making so much more money. We were the only shop in town. I just gave everybody bonuses and stuff, and I would give them raises. We were happy. We made more
Right.
money during COVID, and we did not rip anybody off. We did not raise prices. I left my labor rate the same, but we were doing so much different type of work. You know, you think about it. All of a sudden, you do maybe 3 or 4 brake jobs a week. All of a sudden, you got 15 brake jobs out there. You could pump that shit out. And you remember when
Yeah.
COVID started, the auto parts stores were not running out of parts yet. We had quite the backlog. So we could, you know, after later it became a problem. You remember that. So my guys all made a lot of money. And I changed my hours during COVID from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. at both shops. So my shops, we work 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon and we go home. And we don't work weekends. So my guys love that too. And the other thing I remember back in the day, working till 6:30, 7 o'clock at night at the shop. You go in, it's dark. You go home, it's dark. That gets depressing.
It does. I always sunk my head into my work. I was always the last guy to leave, and if I wasn't, we were doing side work and stuff. But you know, when COVID happened, my mobile business exploded at that point, and I was concerned too. I didn't know what was going to happen, and then people just didn't want to be in a waiting room, and yeah, my business exploded. And as much as I say I'll never have a shop again, what I can say is what I've learned since. I should include having my shop. From having my shop to now, if I went back and did it again, I would do it completely differently than I did. I had so much sympathy brain that I would not be able to get past at that point that I'm able to get past at this point and kind of stand on business a lot more than I was, you know, able at the time. So even little things. I mean, just like customer supplied parts, for instance. I didn't stop taking them while I had the shop. I didn't stop taking customer supplied parts until the shop had closed and I was still doing the mobile thing. Now, if I ever open up a shop again, no customer supplied parts. That's simple. You know, and that was something that, even though I knew it when I had the shop, I couldn't employ it. So maybe it would be a lot different if I tried again, you know?
It would. You learned a lot. You know, it's having a shop. Me, I would never open a mobile business unless it was me by myself, right? If I had to,
Right.
just because in Michigan, it was really tough. I mean, we get a lot of people, you know, trucking through here and stuff like that. And I've been burned a lot of times trying to get people off the side of the road. Then we get them off the side of the road, we get them fixed, and all of a sudden, then we start negotiation on the price. So I just was not good back then at that, you know. And we lost a lot of money over the years. So I literally really understood what, after management success, what I was doing too. Don't think I didn't sit here and lose my ass and thought, man, I can't pay the auto parts bill this week. You know, I started something, and I hear there's a grumbling, and we'll talk about this, and then we'll wrap it up. I charge deposits on jobs over $2,000 now. The reason why is because I do such big shops at both my shops. I do $20,000-$30,000 shops. Sometimes I'll have 4 or 5 of them going on. Like right now, tomorrow morning, I got to order $30,000 worth of parts for a Mac. Okay, and I just
Right.
ordered $10,000 worth of parts for a Tesla Cybertruck we're putting back together. I could get $100,000 worth of parts out there at either shop at one given time. That takes a lot of cash flow to start, you know, having it's gotten high as $250,000 worth of parts out there I owe. Do you know what I mean? So the deposits help. Number one, I could buy the parts if they end up stiffing me, because these insurance companies all of a sudden turn on a dime in the collision world and say, oh, we're going to total it. At least I have the money already paid for versus I'm not on the hook for it. There's just a lot of variables that go into it. But I kind of do that. And the other thing I've learned is if you tell somebody an estimate's $10,000 and they're like, yeah, go ahead and do it. You're like, all right, I'm going to send you a link for a deposit, or can you drop off a certified check? Well, I really don't have the deposit. Okay, so you don't have 5 of the 10 you owe me already. So you want me?
How are you going to have the 10? Yeah.
Right. And I've had them. How I got on that program, I had a guy authorize like $12,000 worth of work, and then he got all done. He came in. I want to negotiate payments now. I don't have the money.
Yeah.
So that's why I do it.
That's honestly a perfect example of one of the things that, you know, I've learned over time is it's seldom that I take on customer work, but if I do, let's say it's, you know, I don't know, what was the last, I did like a Prius engine recently, and it was, I think, like, I don't know, $3,800 when it was all said and done, used engine. and I had them give me. I think I had them give me like 2,200 down. When I was in my shop, I quite literally would say, someone would be like, "Oh, do you need some money down for that?" And I would go, "No. If a shop ever asks you for money down, you're going to the wrong shop." Now, now I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need that money down, or I'm not gonna get started on it."
Right, right. Exactly. And it's not about, I told you the story when we were going down to in my Cybertruck. I talked about Phil. We're sitting there selling engines, $50,000. And I called the customer. I'm like, yo, you're going to need to pay for this when this engine. And that was 4 months ago. That engine is still not done.
Damn.
That's
Yeah.
still not done. No, Daimler screwed it up. It's a Mercedes and a Sterling truck. They freaking sent us a European engine. And then that took 6 weeks to get there. Now we finally got the American engine, but now the centrifuge and stuff is completely different on it. The oil pressure ports are in a different spot. So now we're like, what now? So now the thing is sitting, the chops are sitting in my thing, and I thank God the auto or the dealer that I bought the motor from, they're cool. I spent lots of money with them, so I'm like, hey, I'm not paying you for this engine until it's done. They're like, we get it. This has been a bitch. Could you imagine though? You would have had to pay already, and you're still not paid. You got a bunch of stuff going on. These DPF systems, SCR systems on these trucks, $20,000. You just it's tough to sit there with all this money out there in the street waiting to get screwed. And I don't trust people anymore. So that's the way I do. And I'm sure the people will be like, you don't run your business. You have no money. That's why you have to get deposits. So it's like, whatever, Well,
I tend to disagree with anyone saying anything against that. When you have that much money out, why should you be putting your own money out for someone else's, repair at the end of the day? I get it, like when it comes to the labor and stuff like that, but as far as the parts go, it's not your truck. Your truck runs.
Yeah, exactly, man. This is probably one of the better podcasts I've had, better guests I've had on my podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, and thanks for everything. This is some good conversation.